Unlock the high returns of the expanding venture capital world right here on the Emerging Managers Podcast.
Hello, and welcome back to the Emerging Managers Podcast. My name is Scott Kelly, your host and the founder and CEO of Black Dog Venture Partners. And, I really had a great opportunity a little while ago to go to a great conference called Blueprint. And I was so inspired by what I learned at this conference, I was compelled to interview Martin Kelly, no relation, the president of Blueprint, which is a conference that focuses on prop tech, construction tech, and other verticals in the real estate construction industry, from venture capital to innovation and everything else. And there were thousands of people at this conference. So I was really inspired by, really an untapped part of the investment market that I didn't know anything about. And so during this interview, you'll see that, Martin discusses the motivation towards launching Blueprint as a truly disruptive event, appealing to the venture capital world, as well as owners, operators, developers, general contractors, and others in the construction and real estate business. During this conference and during this interview, there was a lot of discussion about the growth of this industry over the last several years. It's an industry that has been, untapped in terms of innovation, because these are huge markets that haven't fully adapted to these technologies. And though companies like Elise AI and Build Technology are showing great success, there are far more many successes happening in this really innovative part of the construction, real estate, and prop tech industry. And finally, you'll hear why Inman got involved and recently acquired, the Blueprint conference. So take a look at this and give a listen to this great interview with Martin Kelly from Blueprint, and then I'll come back with some key takeaways. Hello, everybody. Scott Kelly, the founder and CEO of Black Dog Venture Partners and your host for the Emerging Managers Podcast. And, this is going to be a little special edition, a little bit off topic to some extent. But I got an opportunity to go to the Blueprint conference in Las Vegas. And I'll tell you, it was probably one of the more quality events I've been to in a really long time. And not only was the conference great, it really opened my eyes to a part of the investment world that I knew little about, 30 plus years investing in tech and working with tech entrepreneurs. And I was really intrigued by, the quality of the entrepreneurs that were in prop tech and construction tech and, real estate, and the investors there. And so after leaving, I felt compelled to talk to the president of Blueprint. And welcome to the show, Martin Kelly, the president of Blueprint. Thanks for coming.
Thank you, Scott. Really appreciate that. And first of all, very happy that you had a good time. That's good to hear. Be worse if I was on here and you had a terrible time. That'd be a tough 30 minutes. It was for that. That's great to hear.
Yeah, it was a great event. Quality content, quality contacts, and I even got to test out my karaoke skills, which was probably not so great. But before,
what was your song that you went to?
Wow, I did a couple. We did a lot of old school stuff, a little Journey. A little rock and roll, a little hip hop. It was a pretty good mix. I tell people I have a face for radio, but I have a voice for the deaf, I think. But anyhow.
Karaoke is a tricky one, because sometimes you think, oh yeah, I'll just pick a song that I like or what have you, but then you realize actually this is a lot harder.
Yeah, I learned the high notes. The high notes that I could do as a kid are pretty much obliterated as an older adult. But well, Mark, before we get into Blueprint, share a little bit about your background. What before launching Blueprint and being the president there.
Yeah, sure. So before I came to Blueprint, I studied law. Fell into the world of events, went to work for the largest non-private equity-backed events business in the world, and rose up to run their US business before actually going into the world, which would be relevant for this conversation, of matchmaking, family office and institutional money to alternatives, including VCs, real estate, private equity. And that was in a SaaS platform, which also had events, and then came to Blueprint.
Awesome. So tell me about Blueprint. What was the motivation, behind, launching this, and tell me about where you've come up to this point.
Yeah, a fascinating question. The Blueprint came out of an event studio model, and I had a particular philosophy behind it, and that's with certain large sectors like real estate or construction, in the same way like to insurance or logistics, are these big areas that venture capital firms look across and look for investment opportunities, and they want to see a broad range of different investment opportunities. But they look at real estate and they might invest in a multifamily sector, SFR sector, office sector. So they could invest across all of that. So they're often looking for a show that is disruptive and can cover all of those bases. And when you look at the real estate sector as a whole, there's a lot of events there. There's some big events if you think about the MIPIMs of the world, but there's also a lot of very sector specific ones. And there wasn't really one that was truly disruptive that was appealing to the venture world, as well as the owners, operators, developers, GCs. And so that's really the kind of concept behind Blueprint, to kind of have a transformational event that would be valuable to both investors and then also the people adopting, piloting, trying new things in the space. And so we're going into our 6th year for 2026. We just had our 5th year that you came to. And we are now probably in that kind of phase where we're becoming more known in the broader real estate and construction communities. But we've always had a very strong edge with the investment community and founders looking to change the world, basically. Blueprint's always been a bit of a home for those kind of shoot from the hip type founders, entrepreneurs, and that entrepreneurial spirit.
You obviously, this is you just finished year 5. So talk to me about, you've obviously had some great growth with the conference itself, but let's talk about the industry and where it's come in the last 5 years since you launched Blueprint. Where is real estate going that hasn't been to yet? Where's tech playing into this? Obviously there were a lot of investors at the conference. It seems like kind of like AI, that AI's been around for a while and it just became really popular. And I saw after 5 years, you've seen a lot of things happen. Talk to me about where technology, AI, and everything else is playing, in the real estate and construction industry.
Yeah, the real estate and construction industry, it's not a secret that that's an incredibly huge market and that it hasn't quite adopted the technologies in terms of its potential yet. And so everybody can see that. That's obvious. And it's had, in terms of investment in it, it's had certainly investment go in, and certain companies look to take advantage of certain areas. Let's look at the modular sector, for example. That's maybe had some big examples of where you thought, like a Terra or what have you, that it might grow, and it didn't quite live up to those expectations. It's interesting at this point, though. I think we're starting to see, when you think of things like you mentioned AI, that actually the built world, it has a couple of examples of true unicorns sprouting through. And Blueprint is a showcase of the one of the whole of the industry. But if you just looked at the major speakers we had speaking, you have people like Minna Song, obviously from Elise AI, that's been a stellar success and had worked very hard, basically in multifamily owners and operators, learning the business, and they're having so much success. They're now applying some of the technologies that they've had in real estate to the world of healthcare. So that's really exciting, I think, marker for the industry as a whole. And then you look at, we had Anchor Jane. I hope you got to see him speak, but that's valued at over 10 billion for built rewards. So that's just kind of rethinking that resident experience, loyalty, or packaging a ton of different things. And the makeup of a number of these companies in terms of where the investment in them has sometimes come from owners and operators themselves or from the VC community. And so that's kind of been great to see. Like I know, with some of those companies that it was hard to raise at the very beginning, in terms of pitching this. And then those later rounds have become a lot more easier. So that's kind of exciting. So I'm starting to see some real traction in the area. And you look at like the likes of Crexy, and we also had Roman Padan from Casa. Some of these models that are coming through who are just thinking very differently about sectors, hospitality or multifamily. They're not thinking about it in a linear way. So I think that's really exciting for the industry as a whole. And that's Blueprint is essentially a champion of progress and thinking about things differently. We like where people are applying learnings from one area to another. And that's, we hope to spark ideas as we kind of create this mix of people that maybe don't come together normally, but they do at Blueprint. And I get approached all the time with people saying they met their co-founder at Blueprint, or they did this partnership they never thought about at Blueprint, or they open their eyes to this new way of thinking because they went to a session they don't normally do. So that's always really exciting to hear.
It's funny you mention that, because I brought two of our portfolio companies, one in construction tech and the other in property tech. And because quite frankly, I learned about the conference a month before, and I immediately sent them an email saying, you guys got to come. And much like you said, we have, they've established several great relationships from a business standpoint. They got to meet face to face with investors that actually understood the space and what they were doing. And so, kudos to you there. So obviously you had some really good success stories. Talk to me about who's yet to be noticed that was possibly a blueprint, or that, might be a blueprint in the future.
Yeah, very good. Very good question. There's a lot there that hasn't been noticed yet. And so, that's where we get approached all the time by people. And when we try and put a number of the kind of smaller firms who are still trying to gain the traction to kind of have their name up in lights on our innovation stage. And we were very supportive. I think there's a number of different companies that one I quite like. There's a Irish startup called Mark. I say Irish. One of the founders is from Newcastle. One of the founders from Dublin. And I know for a fact that they can do things in 20 minutes that multifamily owner and operators have taken weeks to do. So when you hear those type of examples of just true value, and that's what the quote unquote buyers of technology are looking for, is tangible ROI. So if you can demonstrate that, then you will get traction. But if you can't, and it's still a pipe dream, and you need all these things to come together, and you're pitching kind of like a glamorous, oh well, this is what it could be type story, I think in the current climate that's not really valued as highly. And maybe in the past you did have some examples of those type of pitches resonating, and then much more less so now. If I think about like Crexy, who we also had at the event, they have become a unicorn, but they have been very methodical about how they've approached business, and they're kind of proud of that. And it's they've kind of come through and survived, and not only survived but thrived. So that's very interesting for us. And then there's a number of VCs who are investing in certain kind of areas that are maybe more niche and have expertise in those. I think of the likes of Chris Langford, Home Technology Ventures, or Groundbreak Ventures from Canada, in that kind of SFR home building space. Or you have like the Shadow Ventures looking for in robotics, or even Era Ventures with Clelia and Raja. They're very interesting. They've got a philosophy around kind of different pillars they feel are going to be really disruptive. And so I would look at the portfolios of some of these companies to see who they're betting on, or on a more niche level as well. I like the VC model of Alon from REVC, who his LPs are actually executives from major construction firms or major real estate firms, and you can get a direct line into them. So that's the kind of question I think a lot of startups will face, is what is your edge, what's your unfair advantage? And when picking your kind of investors, it's like who can propel you or provide a help to you. There's obviously like the Fifth Walls of the world who have a lot of capital and big brand name, amazing marketing presence. And then there's all these some who are trading on very specific knowledge in a certain sector where they focused on. And so in terms of the ones coming through, I'd look at who the early stage people are investing in, Jonathan Wasserstrom and those type of guys. Who are they picking out? And then who are the later stage firms looking to take on.
I got a chance to interview Alon, and he'll be coming on his podcast, and it will be airing, very
Fantastic.
soon. And we got a couple others, thanks to my attendance there. So one thing I did notice at the conference is there was a fair amount of CVC type VCs. Obviously, they're the venture capital divisions of major brands in construction and real estate. But that wasn't it. There was other people leaning into the space that weren't just in the industry. So maybe share about maybe expand. You mentioned several of the investors there, but where is the generalist investor versus the CVC type investor? How has that been playing into the conference over the course of this last year and even maybe going forward?
Yeah, very interesting. I think it's you could write a very detailed paper on the difference of investing styles between a generalist VC or a sector-specific VC and a CVC. I think the interesting thing with the number of CVCs is that they are broadening their scope in terms of what they're looking for opportunities. Like, we work with Suffolk Technologies. They have their Boost program showcased at Blueprint. And if you look at their investments, they are investing across regions. They're very global in where they invest. They've done things in climate tech, or versus pure construction. Their scope isn't restricted, I feel, by just the fact that they're tied to some construction. But they obviously have that edge in that they are tied in with some construction. You can get pilots, through that relationship. So that's been an interesting thing I've seen with the CVCs expanding their scope and trying very hard to make sure that their fund is investing on the benefits of the investment thesis. So that's that there's maybe been a shift away from just we can incorporate our investments into the main business. That's why we're doing this. To no, we need to treat this as a true separate entity. And you've kind of seen that with most of those larger players trying to be more sophisticated about it, or DPR construction, or Haskell with DisruptTech, and all of those CVCs are treating it in a more sophisticated manner. And then when you flip it to the generalist, that's where I feel like there's different philosophies of how they invest. There's some that have the benefit of pooling a community and have spent time building that, whether you're a Modern or a Fifth Wall, through to or Camber Creek, where they have that edge of they have investors from real estate owners, operators, to Era Ventures on the other side, who actually try and take a take on the investment world where they are purely looking for transformational businesses that can really disrupt the space, and they actually partner up with what you'd call true generalist VCs, outside of the space, and they're bringing the real estate technology and construction expertise, but the generalist VC comes in with them to take a bet on who they think is going to be the next game changer. If you think about kind of like open door, who's we had Eric Wu speak. That's an example of a transformational company that tried to do something totally different. And it's not just looking for pilots from people and that type of thing. It's looking to kind of change the game. So that's the difference in terms of your startup. Are you or are you like a Trunk Tools, where your edge is, in construction, that you're working very closely with the superintendents of GCs, and you really understand them. You can make their lives easier. So those are that's what you've got to kind of understand as a startup, is who is the right investor for you, because is it the ones that have the relationships with certain owner operators that you want to get into, or is it that you are trying to do something totally different that's going to be like Amazon did to bookstores and commerce in general, really change the game. So that's a question for the founders.
Well, we mentioned two of the legs, and you touched on the third leg. Obviously, you've got the startups that are trying to get in front of investors or partners. You got the obviously investors, CVCs, or generalists. Obviously, there are a lot of other people at the show that were adjacent to those two groups. talk to me about who those third leg people are. Who are these other people attending Blueprint?
Yeah, so in terms of other people attending, I'm also going to say, I'm also going to make family officers are there in abundance. Now, family officers are very interesting because they're coming to Blueprint for multiple reasons. They might be executives in companies. They're pure. Their main business may have been a construction firm or real estate firm, brokerage firm, and they might wear multiple hats. They often do, right? And so we also have a lot of people that come from YPO, and so that's the thing about Blueprint that I feel like we have a better maybe understanding than a number of other kind of organizations in our space is the ways that people are tied is complicated, and we take a lot of time to understand that. A family office is a really good example of that, where they might be investing in real estate, they might be investing in VCs, in funds, they might be going direct to startups, and they wear very many different hats. And so that's a whole contingent of Blueprint that's kind of that comes into our show, and we're very proud of that. Good relationships with Tiger 21 and other organizations. And then in terms of the other kind of people coming through, you have the CTOs, CIOs, chief operating officers, or people doing the analytics, the data, rolling out marketing strategies within, real estate owners, operators, and these are people that might have large portfolios across many different sectors, from life sciences to data centers to retail.
So, Martin, you were recently acquired by Inman, and maybe share how that's impacted the conference, since then, and where do you see the conference going forward?
Yeah, so ties in quite. Let's say Inman have a publishing background, and they have an incredible following on social media and subscriber base of people paying every week to get the up-to-date news in the brokerage space. That's their sweet spot is subscription. So in terms of working with them, that's been really helpful in that we are actually launching our own product called Insights by Blueprint, which is focused on that pillar of owners, operators, developers, GCs for operational intelligence. And that what I mean by that is them looking at their tech stack, looking at how to use AI, looking at security, looking at parking, and the kind of detail behind all of those decisions that they have to make. And so yeah, we've actually launched that with the help of Brad Hargreaves, who many people might know as the founder of Thesis Driven, and that's been really exciting. So that's one of the components. Inman's comfortable, their comfort zone is publishing, and so them kind of opening that door up for us is great, because we've launched the event and focused on the event, but this is a whole component which we think can provide a ton of value, because we're already getting a lot of insights ourselves, and that community is who we want to bring into the event going forward. And the reason for that is we've done a fantastic job bringing this amazing community of founders, of investors who are trying new things. And it's important for the wider owner operator base, developer base, GC base to know of these things, and to be trying these things, and to know it exists. If we're truly going to have transformational change in this area. So we really feel that that focus and that publication will help our efforts there. And I have been inspired to do more on LinkedIn and approach marketing. Many of the times we're talking to firms in terms of how they're building their brand. We're having to do the same. We're a startup as well. And so yes, we've been acquired, but we still are very scrappy in nature and trying to get something off the ground. So when you get acquired, it doesn't stop the new ideas. In many ways, it actually starts them.
So where do you see what's next? What's 2026 and beyond look like for Blueprint?
So I think 2026 looks like, with the show, we want to focus on some sectors in particular. We've really made a lot of traction with construction, with multifamily, and I feel and SFR, and we want to go deeper into those and bring those communities in more. And we are very proud of the way we connect people within our community, but I think we're going to double down on that. So there's going to be a lot of that is still focused on our event in Vegas. But then the other component is Insights by Blueprints that will be as a year-round exercise, provides us more touch points, particularly with the people piloting, adopting technology and reviewing their tech stack. So those insights will require a lot of effort from us on a year-round basis to kind of be close to that. So that's going to take up a lot of our time. So we're going to work very hard on that. And we've already hired journalists in the space who are doing 3,000 word deep dives on things like, security or, mass timber and these type of topics where people are looking at how they build or how they manage their portfolios. So that 2026 is going to be a busy one for us. That's really going to be our key focus.
So how can people learn more about the Blueprint next year in Las Vegas, sign up for insights, and get in contact with you?
Yeah, sure. Fantastic. So basically, I think in this podcast, it'd be great if we could put a link to both our events, which is going to be September the 22nd to the 24th in the Venetian. So hopefully you'll come back, Scott, as well. And so we could put a link to that as blueprintvegas.com. And then we also have a separate website, Insights by Blueprint, which you can find as well. We'll provide a link to that. And in terms of that, we'll produce some articles out there which may even be free to have, and then there'll be a subscription for if you really are interested in going deeper, and we'd love it if you do.
Fantastic. Any final thoughts or anything you want to share with our listeners today? Your view on prop tech, construction tech, or anything in the industry at all?
Sure. I think that it hasn't been an easy ride for the real estate or construction industry over the last few years,
right?
as a whole, and that's just obvious to everybody. And so that also makes it challenging in terms of kind of mindset around trying new things, right? When the core businesses are facing pressures from whether that's interest rates, whether that's, building materials, pricing of those, there's lots of macro factors that have caused pressure. And pressure in some of those examples is not always conducive to trying new things and being creative and playing. But I would encourage everybody to try and carve out time and resources to play and really the mindset to do it. And one conversation strikes me from one I had with Groundbreak Ventures in Canada, and their house prices are second only to Australia, but what that has created is pressure, and so they're going to use that pressure because there's pressure from this whole community that cannot get on the housing ladder. So what are they going to do? Well, it means the government might need to spur investment. It means you might need to have a startup ecosystem that's ready to try new things. And it means that you've got politicians and people as well as users more open to modular technologies or different materials or creative ways of coming together to solve these problems. And in a world where we are striving for connection, we're very disconnected, it's really exciting to see concepts like Live with Friends. I did a post with on LinkedIn where people are creating these communities and building in different ways. And the wonderful thing about modern technology is that we can be much more customized, much more creative. And so I'm excited for the next few years, as I feel like if we can just convert this pressure into a positive thing as opposed to a restrictive thing, we can really unleash the true potential of the built world. And that's what I'm excited about.
Fantastic. For everyone listening in, I encourage you to obviously sign up for Blueprint next year in Vegas. You will see me there again. And obviously sign up for Insights. It's got some great articles I've already read already. And then obviously make sure you like, comment, and follow and share this podcast. And again, thank you for being on the show today.
Thank you very much, Scott. Appreciate it.
Welcome back. There were some really great takeaways that I was able to get from my interview with Martin Kelly over at Blueprint, the conference in Las Vegas that I attended. And, a couple of key things he mentioned is the thesis of investing in different styles. There are generalist VCs that are investing in really just to generate a return in a number of different industries. And then you got specific sector VCs. Those are in home building or real estate and real estate construction and architectural design. And the goal is to expand these corporate VCs on the financial side and get them to work together with these industry-specific venture capital firms. And the important thing is you have to consider their expertise. A lot of the LPs of these real estate and construction and prop tech venture capital funds are executives in these major corporations, and many of them have set up their own, corporate venture capital firms to really not only lend capital to these innovative technology companies, but also lend their expertise. And there's some really big game changers out there in the space, which we learned from the interview. You've got, Era Ventures is partnering with Generalist VCs to back transformational businesses that aim to radically disrupt the space, similar to an open door model. And he had some great insight for founders. Founders should understand their unfair advantage, understand their edge that they have over their competitors and what can propel them beyond those competitors, and work with investors that have capital and access to key strategic partners. And, it was really interesting. I got to go to this conference, and then I really learned about what's really happening in an untapped market in terms of technology and innovation. And we're just on the surface of it. And, if you get a chance, make sure you go out to the next Blueprint conference in Las Vegas. It's got a great selection of prop tech and construction tech investors, entrepreneurs developing innovative tech in these industries. And I encourage you to like, follow, and share this post, this blog podcast, and everything else that we have to offer.
Join Scott Kelly, Tracy Hazard, and their high-performing capital fund manager guests next week on the Emerging Managers Podcast. Don't miss our upcoming virtual and live VC Fast Pitch and podcast events. For more details, background on our guests, or an application to be our next guest, visit emergingmanagerspodcast.com. Don't miss out on shaping the future of venture capital and entrepreneurship with us by joining our robust community of innovators and investors today.